Welcome, everybody. We'll open the Washoe County Open Space and Regional Parks Commission for Tuesday, March 3rd. And roll call, please.
Stephanie Chen, absent. Polly Boardman, absent. Heidi Anderson.
Here.
Doug Doolittle.
Here.
Thomas Gwynn, absent. Darla Lee.
Here.
Chris Nenzel, absent. Jennifer Oliver.
Here.
Greg Shorts.
Here.
All right, thank you. Darla, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? I have no notices, so thank you very much. Item 4, approval of the agenda for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting of March 3rd, 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a move to approve by Greg Shorts and a second by Jennifer Oliver. Any questions, comments, changes? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the minutes for the Open Space and Regional Park Commission meeting of February 4th, 2020.
Move to approve.
Anderson will second.
I'm sorry, Heidi, was that a second?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, any questions? Comments? Okay, move to approve by Greg Shorts and second by Heidi Anderson. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next one would be the acknowledgement and recognition of park operations staff for their outstanding service and contributions to Washoe County. Are there any presentations? None? Thank you. This is going to be a record pace we're setting right here. All right. Item 7, Eagle Scout presentation. None? Well, I really can't talk much faster, but item 8, budget presentation and discussion. Eric, Operations Division Director.
Good afternoon. For the record, Eric Crump with Washoe County's Community Services Department. So as we've been discussing, the county, we're rolling into our budget season. Actually, the Community Services Department, our department, did our budget presentation, our budget review with the manager's office budget division earlier this morning. So today, we really wanted to talk about first kind of set the context with the Washoe County's financial status. I think that really helps to look kind of globally, and then I'll dive into the parks budget. This is kind of the 20,000 foot level. We won't get into great detail. I'm certainly willing to answer any questions you have, but we'll likely schedule, given there's so many new members to this board, we'll likely schedule a budget workshop where we do it in a kind of a less formal environment, and we kind of get down into the weeds of the parks budget because there's a lot of pieces to that. So today's kind of the 20,000 foot level, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. So starting with the Washoe County budget, this is a general fund revenues by type. So this basically tells you where Washoe County gets the primary sources of their revenue. The important piece to this is property tax, and what you'll hear me refer to as C-tax, which is a consolidated tax. It's made of kind of 3 different taxes, but primarily sales tax. That makes up 82% of Washoe County's general fund revenue. So that's the orange and the blue you see there. And then there's some obviously other revenues between charges for services, fees and fines, licenses and permits. These are the general fund expenditures by type. So Washoe County in the general fund, we spend roughly 70% of our expenditures are on salaries and wages. And that may seem high, but that's very normal for a service organization like we are. The other big piece to that are services and supplies. So that's kind of the operating piece to that. Transfers out, that's a big component for capital improvements, child protective services, and kind of you see the list there. There's some transfers out for roads fund, indigent fund, senior services, that type of thing. Here's general fund expenditures by function. This is information that we provide to the state on an annual basis, and it basically it divides all the expenditures of Washoe County by certain functions. Obviously, public safety, 42% of Washoe County's general fund expenditures are in public safety. And then if you look at that little blue slice, the light blue slice titled Culture and Recreation, that 5%, that is where Parks lives. And the two functions that live within Culture and Recreation are libraries and parks. So libraries and parks, and it's roughly about an even percentage between the two in that 5%. These slides were taken directly out of the manager's office. The budget division, Lori Cook and Christine Voletich recently gave a budget presentation to our Board of County Commissioners back in January. So we stole some slides, or I stole some slides for that. And this just kind of gives, every year we give a term to the economic outlook. And this year, they're characterizing the outlook as stable with slower growth. So that's what we're seeing on a national level and a regional level. And there's some statistics that you can see in there and some forecast that you see. Interestingly enough, if you look at the very bottom, regional economy expected to continue to grow, but at a slower rate. Development is still growing strong in residential, commercial, and industrial sectors. But going down to the last bullet, EK Economic Consultants, the Reno MSA, which is the metropolitan statistical area, which basically consists of City of Reno, City of Sparks, unincorporated areas of Washoe County, and Story County. Our business index from 2018 to 2019 is up roughly 2.8%, but the next one's kind of striking. We're not necessarily seeing that in unincorporated area of Washoe County, but that MSA, that statistical area, we're seeing construction index down 30.7% between 2018 and 2019. So that kind of talks about that slow growth. This is probably one of my favorite slides. This shows our sources and uses. So sources, obviously revenue, uses, expenditures for Washoe County, and the trend back to 2007. So kind of pre-recession, during the recession. And the important piece to take out of there, if you look at that blue line, i.e. revenues, at 2008, we kind of hit our peak, and it took all the way till between mid 2017, almost to 2018, just to get back to where we were in 2008. So that kind of tells the story that we're just now climbing out of the hole, if you will, that was dug during that recession. Here's some revenue trends marked by, kind of red, yellow, and green. There's no green there. C-Tax, we're seeing the rate of growth for C-Tax is slowing. For fiscal year 19, which was last fiscal year, the increase over fiscal year 18 was 5%, and that's the smallest increase that we've seen since coming out of the recession in fiscal year 12. The property tax revenue, we're still dealing with the tax cap, which is great for all of us who are homeowners, but it certainly has an impact to revenue sources. It's called the tax cap or the abatement for property tax, and has a pretty substantial effect, and there's a slide that shows that here momentarily. So here's the general fund property tax. You can kind of see us climbing out of the recession. The blue indicates actual property tax, and then the purple actually indicates the tax abatement. So that's kind of lost revenue. That's revenue that's not coming to the county due to that tax cap, just to kind of capture it. It was instituted back in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, and we've missed out on nearly $2.5 million worth of revenue in the course of the last 15 years because of that tax abatement. Here's C-tax revenue history, and those are the three elements that make up the consolidated tax. You have sales tax, the GST or government services tax, and then you have transfer real property tax. So when we're talking about budgets, the county does what's called above-base budgeting. So we typically don't do zero-based budgeting every year. Most departments get what they got in the prior year unless there's some substantial change in operation or business function. And then there's added into that base are the known increases. And those are things that we know about going into the budget. This year, for Washoe County, we know of $11.6 million in increases that will be going into the base budget. So that's before we even entertain anything above and beyond. Some of those, obviously, the salaries and wages represent about $5.1 million in known increases. Employee benefits. We have operational increases that are known. Those are things like service contracts that automatically go up from one year to the next, equipment service rates, software maintenance and subscription. So when you add all those up, it's $11.6 million hit to the county. And then here are our unknown impacts or emerging issues that the budget office tracks. We currently don't know the fiscal impacts of these, but they need to be contemplated when we're going through our budget. Obviously, our economic outlook, things are, they're still growing, but slower. We have some pending litigation with Incline Village, and the impacts of that are unknown at this time, but they could be substantial. And then we have 2019 state legislative session court impacts. There were some decisions that were made that impact us. Technology, operating costs of technology continues to grow, operating programs. And then the last one is the department requests. Those are those above base budget requests that we submit on an annual basis to budget for things above and beyond what our current budget can withstand. And I'll talk about those here in a bit. It's really hard to talk about, or it's not appropriate to talk about budget before talking about capital needs. So the capital piece to Washoe County, we identify those as projects that are in excess of $100,000. That's the definition we use. We track those. We have a 5-year CIP plan as a county. There's a CIP committee, and all of the CIP projects are submitted. Those are actually submitted earlier, back in October, because they have such a big impact to the budget. They happen before the operating side of the budget kicks in. And we've got some pretty substantial increases, or requests, I should say, in that world with the infrastructure that we have. Just some quick notes on that. The total 5-year CIP requests are $77 million for fiscal year 21, which is the year that we're planning, which will start in July 1 of 20. The request for CIP funding was $33 million. Of that, about $30,000 was general fund. And right now it looks like there's about $6.3 million available. So only about 21% of those requests are anticipated to be funded. We also have some major long-term considerations that are on the horizon. We've got our Washoe County Sheriff's Office Infirmary and Crime Lab. That came out as a priority in the recent master plan that was developed for that complex. We recently did a master plan for our downtown project and court buildings. We actually have a lot of property in the downtown area between 1 South Sierra, our district courthouse on 75 Court, and then Human Services Agency at 350 South Center. And so master planning for that. We recently did a master plan for this complex. And then North Valley's library master plan, and then that technology infrastructure and some of the major systems associated with that. And lastly, some of our stormwater requirements up in Tahoe. And TMDL stands for Total Maximum Daily Load, and it's basically the Lake Tahoe Water Clarity Program that is heavily regulated up there. Again, here is the right out of the budget division's presentation, outlook stable with slower growth. I won't read this entire slide, but this was their summary of the outlook in that presentation. And this is what was presented to the Board of County Commissioners in January. And then some of their recommendations to the board, asking departments to, and this will be important as I go into the Parks budget and the subsequent above base requests that came out of Parks. They're really asking for departments to look at their existing budgets, reprioritize, restructure, and reallocate before requesting above base increases. And that's where I'll go into next here. So this slide represents, this is our current park budget, just to give some context. We've got several different funds. We have the general fund, which is pretty much all of our park operations and maintenance with the exception of the May Center and the golf fund. So revenue you see there, we're not a huge revenue generator, but we do generate some. Those are mostly fees for services, things like community building rentals and permits, field permitting, that type of thing. And then you have expenses down below for both the general fund, or for all three, general fund, May Center, and golf fund. So you see revenue about $2.18 million and expenses about $7.8 million for parks.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Oh, sure.
Really quick, Commissioner Oliver. With your so if 7.84 million is essentially your parks budget, where were you at the recession, at the bottom of the recession?
So I don't have that number off the top of my head. We're certainly we're above pre-recession levels, but there's a lot of components to that when you start adding in. So again, 70% of our budget is labor. There's been, over the course since we've been climbing out of the Great Recession, there's been a lot of COLAs, between 2 and 3%. So you kind of have this artificial growth, right? So you have this 2 to 3% that are just on the salaries and wages. It has not affected the service levels at all.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
But I can get that information for you. Great question. Here are the above base requests. I put in last year's.
Hello. Hi, this is Commissioner Jung.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Hi, thank you, Eric. Mr. Crump, I'm sorry. Can you send us all via email the funding patterns, and let's go back. Let's just go back 12 years. How Parks has been, how much they've actually been allocated, because I think to get to Commissioner Oliver's question, I believe Parks was cut 42% during the Great Recession. So it would help us if we could see 12 years ago and each year going what the funding was, because you're saying now we're up to the same level that we were, and I'm not sure if that's true.
Correct. Yeah, I certainly will. What I was trying to, We'll have to tease that information out. I know exactly what you're going with. What I'm saying is the actual dollars that are being funded, they're different in today's standards than they were back then. So if you look dollar for dollar, let's say we had $10 million pre-recession and now we still have $10 million. But if you look at our resources, we have less staff, less services applies because cost of living has gone up because of all those different factors, right?
10 million 12 years ago is not the same as $10 million today.
Exactly.
And then can you also speak about or give us at another meeting an overview of the actual park fund that developers pay into and how much is available and what we can do with it?
Yes, I can. So,
as well as the state parks fund that we get a portion of as well, I believe.
Yes, so what I believe you're talking about, we have residential construction tax that is generated when new developments come in. So we can give an overview of residential construction tax and the balances and what it can be used for. That's a great presentation. And then also this state park, you're probably referring to state question 1 or SQ1 funding?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can give a presentation on SQ1 funding, all the projects we have left. In fact, there's a meeting later this afternoon to talk about those. So those are winding up, but that would be a great one. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So this slide, I wanted to include our above base requests last year. Last year was a very similar year to the current year in terms of things were relatively flat. There was very limited funds for above base requests. But knowing how other departments got through the budget cycle, we ended up fairly well. We actually got two, basically one part-time range safety officer, so that fiscal year 2020, which is the current fiscal year, those two bullets are the above base that were requested last year that were actually funded. So we have a part-time range safety officer, and getting new positions in the county is usually quite challenging. And then we also increased one of our part-time park rangers, and that 0.75 FTE, that stands for full-time equivalents. And we were successful in getting that raised from 0.75, or in essence, a 3/4 employee to a full-time.
Doug Doolittle. Eric, on the range safety officer, that revenue offset, was that a result of additional time that the range was open, or a fee increase, or both?
It was a mixture. So that fee offset, it actually was partially recognizing some revenue. The revenue projected for the range was higher than what was budgeted. We also decreased, we had some seasonal or pooled position funding in there. We decreased that, not all of it, but part of it, to fund this position, knowing this was more important. So it's a mixture of two different funding sources.
Thank you.
And then, so moving into fiscal year 2021, we had one above base request. And again, this was really based on the recommendations and the information being provided us by budget. There's not going to be a lot of budget available for funding above bases. But this is one that we felt was really important, gives us a lot of bang for our buck. And this is funding for 2 AmeriCorps positions and entering into AmeriCorps service agreement. It's roughly $10,000 per support staff. If successful, this would really help us in our weed abatement. So we have an integrated weed management plan, and we'd be implementing some of that plan. They would help us in mapping weeds. They'd help us in treating the weeds, coordinating volunteer efforts. We have, over 12,000 acres of open space, and as this community goes and that open space becomes somebody's quote-unquote backyard, the pressures for us to manage noxious weeds are increasing, certainly. We also anticipate these folks will help us with some inventory, some condition assessments for a lot of the infrastructure that's in parks, could help us with our tree program and inventory of that as well. And just a little side note, so fiscal year 21 base budget, we're seeing a 2.1 increase over prior year for those known increases that we talked about earlier. So we're already going to get 2.1% increase in parks for known increases, and then that $20,000 is the above base. Yes.
Doug Doolittle again. Another question regarding the positions that you currently have budgeted. Are they filled, completely filled?
They are.
Good.
So this is over, as you can expect, we have several CIP projects and CIP requests within parks. Again, we have a 5-year CIP plan, so that top one where you see fiscal year 2021, those are the projects that we have submitted to Capital Projects Committee for consideration. We have a Bowers Mansion Regional Park irrigation renovation. That would be similar to the recent irrigation and renovation that we did at Rancho San Rafael. That Bowers Mansion Park, as you might recall, has a lot of turf, a very large irrigation system. It's actually irrigated off of a spring that we capture in the historic pool. And that should give you kind of a sense of how old that system is. And then we pump out of that pool to irrigate the park. So this would provide basically a renovation to that system. Bowers wading pool improvements. This is critical. So we've been doing improvements to the Bowers pool for several years, primarily funded through the Pennington Foundation. Currently, the wading pool does not meet the health regulations, so there's been some considerable pressure, rightfully so, from the health district to bring that pool up to standard. We did that to the large pool with the last set of improvements, so this would bring the wading pool up to those standards, and it's really the circulation and the filtration system. Emilio Gaspari Water Play Park safety improvements. Currently, if that particular facility was designed today, it wouldn't look like it is. The chlorination system, the filtration system are kind of in an open air environment, with kind of wood shake around them. It's fairly old and has a lot of human elements. We're placing chemicals by hand in a lot of that area. So this would basically bring that park up to current standards, make it a lot safer. The log flume ride demolition at Rancho San Rafael Park. If any of you remember the Great Basin Adventure, yes, I see. The log flume ride, Great Basin Adventure closed. I was thinking about this morning. I think it closed roughly about 10 years ago, if I had to guess. And the log flume ride still stands. It's kind of a attractive nuisance, and it's something that's been on our radar to remove for a long, long time, and it's time we do that. And then lastly, Lemon Valley Park improvements. This is primarily drainage and surface improvements. There's a complex of 3 baseball fields at Lemon Valley Park. We made some improvements several years back to the other area that wasn't associated with the baseball park, with the picnic area and the landscaping and the restrooms. And so now this is a focus on the baseball area. And then below you see the next 4 years, fiscal year 22 through 25. I didn't associate any costs with those because we really don't know this far out. But you can kind of get a sense of some of the projects that we have identified. And I'd like to point out that several of them are some of our regional parks. If you look at nearly any of our regional parks, whether it's Hidden Valley, North Valleys, South Valleys, all of them have some stage of a master plan, or maybe we need to redo the master plan, but they're not fully developed. And so this would be taking the information that we received during our comprehensive master planning process that we recently wrapped up, and it spoke to regional parks really being an area that our community likes and supports and expects, and we should start focusing on developing those regional parks pursuant to the specific master plans in those areas. So,
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question, please? It's Kitty Jung.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Mr. Crump, you mentioned with what I happen to agree with, how the log flume ride is an iconic feature. Have we looked at maybe asking somebody else to come remove it, and if they want to place it somewhere else? I mean, I don't know what operating order it is, what the value of it is, but I do know that Jacobs Entertainment is buying a lot of art to put on the 4th Street corridor that they're redeveloping from Burning Man. So I'm wondering, have we looked at this might be something we can ask somebody to come do all the work for us and put it up someplace public?
That's interesting, if I may, Chair. We've not quite that angle, and you've certainly piqued my interest. We have worked with UNR. We actually had some engineering students out at UNR that were contemplating maybe trying to put a project together, and we've been down that road with various entities and groups, obviously not successfully, but certainly we're open to that. I mean, you're going along the same lines as we were for a long time. It's like somebody wants to do this, right? And
Right.
hopefully we'll find somebody.
Well, I mean, I think we should use our resources that we do have, and let's start with the new art trail that Commissioner Burkbigler just put some funds for, and also let's reach out to our sources at Burning Man and see if they can't find a home for it, even if it's for one burn. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather preserve it, but I'd rather somebody else pay for taking it away, hopefully preserve it, put it somewhere. But it also, I mean, just figure out a way that we don't bear the brunt of the cost. And I hate to say this on the public record, but a lot of times when you involve students, it all has to do with their attention and what their real resources are. Whereas if we could go to a developer or Burning Man or some of these other people, they might take an interest and want to just take it off our hands for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This, just wrapping up here, this is the budget calendar for Washoe County. So as I had said earlier, today the Community Services Department just presented to the manager's office our budget recommendations and above basis. So we're kind of in that March 2nd through 9th window. The big deadlines you want to focus on, we have to submit our tentative budget to the state on April 15th. And then on April 21st, the county manager will be presenting his recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. And then May 19th is the public hearing that's required in adoption of that final budget. So May 19th and April 21st are pretty key days, especially that April 21st. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions from the commissioners? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So it's been in the news yesterday, I believe, that the minimum wage increases were going to be affecting the city parks and rec as far as how much they're going to have to be paying their staff. Is that built into the staff figures that you have?
So we updated our pay rates for our seasonal employees 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago to compensate for that because we were experiencing the same issue. So I'm not aware of any issues that we're going to have moving forward because we kind of got ahead of that.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? When are you thinking about the workshop date?
I would recommend that we do the workshop after the budget's approved so we kind of know what we have to do with. And then really the workshop is to go in to all the different funds, the level of staff that we have, park acres. It's a really good workshop for those who haven't seen it before. And it's always good if you have seen it before. Usually takes about an hour to an hour and a half. There's some Q&A involved. So I'd take your lead, but we could do that. I don't see this summer. I'm just kind of thinking out loud in terms of any big things that are coming. I'm not aware of anything that we really need to be aware of right now.
And just a suggestion, if we can't book this room for it, if it's an off date other than the first Tuesday,
Right.
off-site somewhere else might be a good option.
Right, yeah, we've historically done it at Bartley Ranch at the Brick House. It's just a better environment for that type of a workshop, so we do that off-site. That would be good.
Okay, great presentation. Thank you, Mr. Crump.
Thank you.
I have a question,
Oh.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Crump, so I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the agenda. Is this an action item to adopt your budget?
This is not.
So when does this board that's supposed to be providing advice to the commission get to go through the budget and make recommendations or disagree with your recommendations before it actually gets to the final anything? When you go to the budget managers or whatever this team is, when does this board get to say, nope, we don't want to put any more money to this, we'd rather see this? When does that happen?
So historically, it's a great question. So Assistant County Manager Solaro has come in front of this board several times, approaching this date, asking for feedback relative to the budget.
Okay.
What are they hearing from the people they represent? What are their concerns within the community? You know, and incorporating that into this. The way the county budget is kind of outlined. It's hard to like get these approvals. Certainly we could do something like that, and that's why we pose this as discussion. So we would take the feedback from this group if they hadn't supplied it before and incorporate that into the budget. But there's historically not been an official kind of adoption, but we could consider that, or the board could consider that.
Thank you. I think that needs to happen because the Board of County Commissioners take the advice of this board to help them hone in on this. So what I'm trying to say to the chairman and the rest of the commissioners is if you haven't already, and it might even be too late this year, I think is what Mr. Crump is kind of saying, but now is the time to start thinking about what do you want to do? What projects are you seeing missing? What do you think shouldn't be done anymore? And talk to your friends and family and neighbors. And that way you're driving this much more than staff so that the commissioners actually use you as an advisory board. Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chung, this is Doug Doolittle. Your comments are very well taken, and I will let you know that for the past 3 months, staff has come to us with more or less an open agenda to provide any comments, questions, concerns, et cetera. And I'm not aware of any coming forward at this point, but certainly the opportunity has been there to comment to staff. We've not seen a line item budget, but I'm not aware that we saw one last year either. Not that that's an excuse, but it's certainly they've been available to answer any questions that we've had.
I'm trying to empower the advisory board
Okay.
to actually to behave in that function, because as we're experiencing this growth, as Mr. Crump explained, we have very finite resources and lots of demands. It would be so much better for us as a board to have you informing all of these questions. And I think you do need a line item budget, because that will help you really crystallize and see. And I'm not saying that staff is doing it wrong at all, but it helps me if you have looked at it and then you give us feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand exactly what you're
Thank
saying.
you. And like I said, it could be too late this year, because I'm sure staff and budget is probably in a little bit of a seizure right now. What is Commissioner Jung doing? And I'm not trying to do that. What I'm saying is, how about let's set this up for the next cycle? You're much more getting down into the weeds for us.
Well, again, from my purview, it's great to have that kind of support and empowerment indicated from the Board of County Commissioners, because oftentimes sitting on the commission, it's not felt as though we've had that opportunity.
Okay, well, hey, today's a new day. I can't change yesterday, but I can
Yep.
change tomorrow.
Thank you.
So thank you,
Can I
all
make
of
a
you, in
comment on
case I
that?
get come off. But I want to tell you, I appreciate all of your work there. And I am telling you, as your liaison to the board, you are empowered.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Short, go ahead.
Yeah, along those lines, you have definitely been asking us, for input and things like that. But I do have to agree with the commissioner that, what Commissioner Jung, that we haven't seen anything that would allow us to really make true reactions to. And right now I'm looking at this page here with what you just gave us, which I think is awesome. But the CIP stuff went in I've been on the board in that time, and I've never had anything that I would consider my ability to make any input on that, just as an example. So I don't take this as thinking something's wrong, but that's the way I thought that things would be run, that would be seeing a little bit more of that. So I kind of reflect what the commissioner is saying.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is presentation on veterans programs. April Wolf, Therapeutic Recreation Specialist for City of Reno, and Colleen Barnum, Parks Operations Superintendent, will be making the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, Colleen Wallace-Barnum, Park Operations Superintendent. We've got queued up here a presentation that will be given shortly by April Wolf with the City of Reno. And I just wanted to give some background about what Washoe County does in terms of programming. So Washoe County Parks provides several programs that are typically educational or entertainment focused. So some of our programs that we have given presentations to this commission in the past is Coming from the Cold, Gardening in Nevada, programs on the porch, the Lazy Five Summer Music Series, Galena Campfire programs, and Evenings on the Ranch, Fall Photo Hikes. Otherwise, our staff doesn't really provide what would be considered sort of your typical recreation programming, because the City of Reno and Sparks both do an excellent job providing those recreational services for the members of our community. Washoe County does have a recreation coordinator, and that individual manages all of the aquatics facilities, the Hawkins Amphitheater, contract classes, as well as permitting for sports leagues. We also have several seasonal and temporary staff that assist during peak season to make sure those functions can take place for our citizens. So we hire recreation specialists, lifeguards, pool managers, rec leaders, and concession attendants. So Washoe County, in terms of veterans programs, we have worked cooperatively with other agencies in the past. For example, the Division of Wildlife had requested if they could utilize Maryland's Pond to provide a Veterans Fishing Day, and we usually accommodate those requests when they come up. So that's just an example of some type of veteran program that we have done in the past. In 2010, we did host there was a Vietnam moving wall, I don't know if you remember, but it was at Rancho San Rafael for about a week back in 2010. So that's just another example of something that was related to veterans. I did reach out to the City of Sparks, and they do not provide veterans programming either. They basically have therapeutic programming for special populations, but they don't do anything specific for veterans. They said that the one program that they offer, Mark Wellman's Adventure Day, is at the Sparks Marina, and they do this as an annual event, is one where they find that a lot of veterans do come out to that program, but it's not specifically just geared for veterans. So I would like to welcome April Wolf up to the dais, and she is the therapeutic recreation specialist with the City of Reno. She's been doing this for 13 years. She's working on her 14th year now, and she's going to provide you a brief overview of the program she provides for veterans in our community.
For the record, April Wolf, I'm the Therapeutic Recreation Specialist for City of Reno. So I oversee the inclusion, adaptive recreation, and then veteran programming that I'm talking about today. I just wanted to start with a brief program overview video. So if you could click the link, thank you. Adaptive cycling series ride, and so it's an opportunity for folks to come out and try adaptive bikes that they may not have had an opportunity to try before, or if they have their own bike, be able to ride with others who have adaptive bikes. There's a number of different agencies that participate, so we have City of Sacramento and Chico and Bay Area Outreach Program, and so we help support each other by bringing our various equipment and expertise to kind of help people get on bikes. adaptive cycling is just one of our programs. We do everything from wheelchair rugby, wheelchair basketball. We have a fitness program for disabled veterans, a cycling program for veterans. We do a week-long sports camp. We rent all of our adaptive equipment, so if folks couldn't make it out today, they can come rent any of the equipment at any time.
So I think I started playing quad rugby in October of 2015 and played that for a while. I got a lot of function back, so now I play wheelchair basketball with the city. I came to this last year, so I've done some rides with you guys. And they had a spinal cord injury class. I took that as well, which was amazing. It was fantastic. It helped me a lot figure out how to work out and not hurt myself. And they had adaptive equipment at Evelyn Mount, so that was super helpful. I woke up partially paralyzed one day in 2015. I went to bed feeling sick and woke up partially paralyzed from my chest down. So it was obviously very difficult. I think this program probably saved my sanity, actually.
So if you want to find out about programs that we offer, we put out a quarterly newsletter called the Adaptive Connect that you can subscribe on reno.gov and be able to find out what we're doing.
So I'll just switch back to the PowerPoint. So of course it never rains in Reno until they come with a film crew to film your programs, and you look like a drowned rat. So that's just a quick overview of everything that we offer. Like I said, I've been with the City of Reno almost 14 years. When I started in 2006, the focus was on inclusion, so making sure our traditional recreation programs were accessible to individuals with disabilities. So mainly in our before and after school programs and camps. In 2008, we became a Paralympic sport club under US Paralympics. That kind of launched all of our adaptive recreations and disability-specific programming. And in about the past 8 years, we've started doing veteran programming with the assistance of a variety of veteran-specific grants. So the first program, oh no, it didn't show the flyer. So the first program that we did offer is our Fit But Not Forgotten program. I did bring copies of the flyer because apparently that image is not showing. So this is our largest veteran program. We are funded by a Department of Veterans Affairs Adaptive Sports Grant, as well as a contractor for our local VA here in Reno. The program is structured where veterans come through, there's new sessions that start at the beginning of every single month. They come for 4 classes. They kind of learn to use everything in our fitness facility. And at the end of the 4 weeks, then they receive a membership for our facility for 1 year. So they can continue to use the weight and cardio room, the pool, any water fitness class. And then recently, with working with the Reno VA, Whole Health is a big push with VA nationally to offer alternative types of medical programming. So we've now added yoga and Tai Chi as an additional part of their pass benefit. If a veteran has a pass that expires, as long as they're active in the last 30 days, we'll automatically renew their pass again, or they can come do a 1-hour refresher, or they have the choice to go through the classes all again. So we do work with the VA's exercise physiologist, and he partners with us as well and comes and provides assistance. And then if needed, like next month, we have we've been inundated, so I actually added a 3rd session for the month of March. So we were able to use him as an additional staff to be able to add additional classes. So through that program, we serve over 100 veterans a year. And so to date, we've served over 800 veterans through that program. Advance. I don't know why it's not. Can you see if it'll advance to the next? Oh, there we go. Okay, so the second program, this is a partnership. So we kind of built out from our Fit But Not Forgotten program, and this is a program that is 10 weeks long. So we take kind of our 4-week fitness program and expand it out. This program, we identify veterans specifically that are eligible. It's a partnership with the High Fives Foundation up in Truckee, California. So they kind of originated the program. They were working with a foundation out of Dallas, Texas called the Adaptive Training Foundation to identify veterans to kind of reframe a traditional boot camp. So boot camp is normally 9 weeks long. Rather than going to boot camp, we're doing fitness boot camp. So for 9 weeks, we have a group of 22 veterans, half of them coming from Adaptive Training Foundation in Dallas, Texas. The rest are here from Reno. And they work out 3 times a week. So they have individual workouts twice a week, and then we do a group workout and partner with Double Diamond Athletic Club and Title Boxing to facilitate those group workouts. At the end of those 9 weeks, then we take them for a week at Squaw Valley Alpine Meadows. We live in the village for the week, and they ski every day and kind of use that 9 weeks of training to apply to being able to ski for the week. So I think on the photo, there's a video also embedded. So if you click over the photo, so the other one, sorry. It's going the wrong way. So yep. So there's a video just briefly about this program. And this is specifically following our Reno group. This is a 9-week training program, so we have guys that we're helping prepare so that they can spend a week on snow at Squaw and Alpine. So having that goal of getting physically ready, so doing individual workouts, coming and doing these group workouts today, so that when we get to that week of skiing and riding, that they're in the best shape that they can be.
Where's our Reno guys? Well, here they are. We brought 70 guys to join up with 15 guys from Dallas to make the most amazing crew of 22 to ever hit the slopes.
You know, if you have to wonder or question yourself, you know, is this still the best country in the world? Look around you. Yeah.
This is our ohana for the week. Ohana is the Hawaiian word for family. And family can be blood, non-blood, but as long as we all have stoke among each other, then we're all a family. So for this week, this is our ohana, so look around.
All around me are guys learning how to ski for the first time in whatever apparatus, and it's challenging. It's always something new to learn. You never quite master it, and I think that resonates with this crew.
This crew has been able to come forth and, meet higher expectations than we ever thought. The returning folks and the new have mingled together to make sure that everyone understands that the common goal here is that every single person leave every single day with the biggest smile on their face. It really has showed that this unit wants to make sure that every individual is successful.
So this year's dates for 2020 is March 15th to the 21st. So that will be when they're up on the mountain. There'll also be, if anybody's interested, on March 15th, there'll be an airport welcome, similar to every year. So that will be a press release that Reno Tahoe International puts out. I believe the Texas guys come in at 6:30, and the entire group of 22 athletes will get escorted through the airport for their arrival and the start of that program. So our other program, every September we host an annual military sports camp. That camp is not only for the disabled veteran, but it is also for their spouse or guests that they would like to bring. It's a week long of adaptive sport where they get to kind of try a little bit of everything, and we show all the adaptive sports that are available. So we've worked with a private water ski lake and do adaptive water skiing, paddleboarding, archery. We take them up to South Lake Tahoe and do sled hockey. We do wheelchair rugby. We've added adaptive mountain biking this last couple years and adaptive rock climbing wall. And then we revolve the whole thing around air race weekend. So we also take them out to their air races during September. So it's an opportunity to get a taste of a little bit of every adaptive sport and hopefully pique interest to continue in an adaptive sport after they participate in the camp. We do give registration preference to Nevadans. We do have funding locally from Nevada foundations, as well as this year we received a VA adaptive sports grant through the state of Nevada. So they applied for a state grant that includes City of Reno and City of Las Vegas for veteran-specific programs. And then our last program is Project Hero. So Project Hero is actually a national veterans program. They use cycling as a tool for veterans with PTSD or physical injuries to kind of use cycling as their therapy. It started in 2008 at the Palo Alto VA. A recreation therapist and a psychologist were both cyclists, and they thought, hey, let's try that with our inpatient PTSD patients and see if this is a useful tool. And they saw the benefits that cycling had in those individuals' lives, and out of that came this nonprofit. So they were founded in 2008. It was in 2013 that City of Reno became a local chapter. The local chapters are kind of used to then train local athletes to then participate in the national events. So we do a lot of local-based rides, and then hopefully those veterans can participate in national events. So the kind of chart shows the various national events, so Project Hero being the local chapter in the middle. They do challenge series, honor rides, special events, and initiatives, and I'll go over those each. So Honor Rides is kind of the fundraising arm for the national program. So they're like your typical one-day century ride or cycling ride where there's various distances as available. They're free for veterans to participate in, but the local public or anybody could come ride and fundraise to give back to the organization. So there's 2 Honor Rides that are in this general area, one in Sacramento in April, and then I usually take a group about 15 veterans down to Las Vegas to do the Honor Ride in Las Vegas, because you get to ride down the strip with no cars, so it's kind of a cool experience. Special events and initiatives, so they do some mountain bike challenges, as well as they host women's initiatives just to work with women specifically with PTSD. So those occur throughout the year through the national program, and so again, using the local training program to get them ready for those national events. The biggest national event are their challenge series, and so this is like a large, lofty goal doing those like local cycling trips and then working towards, say, a 400 to 500 mile trip. So the next one that is in our area is California Challenge. I've got the privilege to do that ride 4 or 5 times, and you ride from San Francisco to LA. So it's a 400 to 500 mile ride that's fully supported, and it's all veterans, and you get to watch them every day really support each other, because it truly is a challenge. When you're doing Big Sur, it's like 100 miles and lots of uphill, so. And then Project Hero, so that's our local chapter. So we're working on setting individual goals, helping folks maybe get on a bike for the first time. We've received the honor of receiving a Washoe County Health District grant. So they've been able to, I have program bikes available that are on loan to veterans when they first started in the program, but now through this grant and partnership, if a veteran shows a commitment over their participation in the program, then we can actually award an actual bike for them to keep. So we've done 2 presentations so far of those bikes, one at our city council to a veteran, and then a veteran that was actually a VA and employee, and we did it at their director's meeting and presented him a bike that he got to keep. So it was kind of fun. He had no idea. So again, I mentioned we became a chapter in 2013. Currently, we have about 45 active riders. Actually, 2 that are on your commission have rode with us at one point. You have a couple of veterans that have participated in our programs. And like I said, we ride 3 to 4 times a week. And we also like to partner. I'm very much about, I want our group of veterans to give back and not only just participate in our program, but give back to their fellow veterans. So we have a really neat partnership with Kiwanis Bikes here in town and the VA's homeless program, where we identify veterans that may be homeless or transitioning and could really use a bike, not only just for recreation, but also for maybe personal transportation to get to VA medical appointments or to get to a job. And so each month, the VA identifies 3 to 4 veterans through their homeless program. They get to pick out a bike of their choice, and then we work on those bikes to get them all repaired and in working order. And at the end of the night, the veteran gets to keep the bike, and then we give them all the safety equipment to go with it. So helmet, light, lock, all the stuff to change a flat and such. And so we've been doing that for the last several years, putting veterans on bikes, hopefully so that they can use it for transportation or recreation going forward. So that's our veterans helping veterans for bikes. So just a picture of one of our classes. So I have all of our Project Hero veterans come volunteer alongside homeless and transitioning veterans to then hopefully give them a bike at the end of the night. This is just for Project Hero participation, so anyone can come ride with our veteran cycling program locally or get involved in national events. Sometimes a veteran might need a push. We have different adaptive style bikes that have a push bar on it, and so a veteran might literally need a push to get over a hill. So we always, if you are a cyclist and want to just ride or support a program, we can always use additional help. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very nice to see that. Any questions from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Short.
Hi. Well, I'm one of the people, this is Commissioner Shorts. I'm one of the people that she mentioned was riding with them. And actually, it's your program that made me want to ask the county what they're doing and what their things are. So the biggest question I guess I have for you is, how do you see county parks being able to help you in your mission? I know you're already a city, but we have facilities and things that I think might be able to have some help.
More of me. So I am very unique to Parks and Recreation departments. So I am a certified recreation therapist. Not every Parks and Recreation department has something like that in their Parks and Recreation department. So I think, for us, I'm afraid to grow because I need, I keep getting told, don't start more programs because I'm just me. And so just looking how we can strategically grow and, potentially partner. I do partner with City of Sparks on Mark Woman Adventure Day that was mentioned. But if there's opportunities to partner, I'm definitely always open to partnering with other entities. So like High Fives, we partner with a variety of nonprofits. So there's definitely the opportunity to partner in the future. It's the bandwidth, staffing-wise, to be able to grow too quickly. So.
But are there any areas where you could see a coordination that our parks might be able to help out what you guys are trying to do?
Not at this time. I can't think of a specific program area that I'm looking to go into that where I could say yes, that there's a specific need at this time. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Jung, do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Right,
Great
you.
Presentation. Okay, item 10, Program Park of the Month, Farm Camps at Rancho San Rafael Regional Park. Faith Ross.
Okay, for the record, Colleen Wallace-Barnum, Park Operations Superintendent. I just wanted to introduce Faith. She is the Executive Director of Urban Roots, and Urban Roots has been doing a children's farm camp at Rancho San Rafael in our Nevada Farms and Families area, previously the Great Basin Adventure, and she's been doing that the last 2 years with her group, and we're looking at entering into a longer-term agreement, which I was planning to bring before this board next month. So this is a nice way to queue it up and really allow Faith the opportunity to talk about the benefits of this program for our community. So Faith, come on up.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to speak with you and share a little bit more about Urban Roots and how we've been partnering. I wanted to just start by telling you what we do. So we are a nonprofit. We've been based in Reno, and we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And our mission is to change the way that kids eat and learn, and we do this through gardening. So we offer a variety of programs, all of them of which are to address community needs. So those are academic achievement, healthy living, environmental stewardship, and community service. And through our programs, we have 3 major offerings. The first is in Washoe County Schools. I'll be talking a little bit more about that in a moment. We also operate a farm. It's called the Urban Teaching Farm. It's on the corner of 2nd and Gould in partnership with Renown Health. It is Renown's land. They give it to us as an in-kind donation to be able to run field trips, homeschool programming, and summer camp. And then, as Colleen mentioned, we have been working at Rancho San Rafael for the last 2 summers and hope to deepen that relationship. So these are some photos. I wanted to just kind of share what we've been up to the last few years. So we are specifically in the Nevada Farms and Families area. It's perfect for our mission. We're ag-focused, and we're working with families. Couldn't be better. So I included a little map that we're showing parents, but it's just been wonderful. We see ages 5 through 15 at the programming, And out behind the turkeys, there's a gorgeous garden area. We've raised beds there, we've got pergolas there, and then that's where we have the kids go and learn through gardening. So in 2018 and 2019, we've served over 1,000 kids just at Rancho alone. And we've also had 280 hours of volunteer service from members of our community come and specifically work in that garden area, as well as doing cleanup in Rancho itself. Just a few numbers for you. So in 2018, that was our first year of trying this. We saw kiddos ages 6 through 15, over 450 of them. A lot of them were on scholarship, and we logged 44 volunteer hours. And then last year, we had an amazing year. We had ages 5 to 10, and we served 545 kiddos, 220 of which received full scholarships. And then we also had a wonderful partnership with Patagonia and logged 236 volunteer hours. So 2020, we're going down in numbers, you'll notice, and that's for a variety of reasons. As we grow our urban teaching farm, we're actually adding a kitchen there. And so our programming will be seed to table, and we're trying to see more of our children at our farm. We also think Rancho is perfect for the littles, the 5 to 7-year-olds. They need those open places to run. The playground, the dino park is a huge hit for that age group, and all of the shade that's at Rancho is just really conducive to learning for the younger kids. So it's also, I hear from Colleen, you're going to have dragon lights again. And so it's actually great timing that we don't need as much space and you don't have as much to give. So we're expecting about 315 kids this summer, and 90-ish of them will be on scholarship, and again, just the younger kiddos. We've also had AmeriCorps. So our summer camp programming is fueled by AmeriCorps. So we actually get them from the Truckee Meadows Park Foundation. And so in the last 2 years, we've had 22 young adults who've given us over 950 hours of service just to be able to help us with our summer camp programming. So it's been a really neat opportunity to work with those young adults as well, in addition to these 5 to 15-year-olds that we serve. And then I mentioned Patagonia. They sent a team of 8 all summer long, once a week, and together we logged 236 volunteer hours just in that garden area. So that's been a really wonderful way to engage other members of our community and getting them out to Rancho. Another fun thing we did this last summer in 2019 that we are hoping to do again this summer based off of grant funding is what we call Fun Fridays. So in addition to everything else that we do throughout the week, so our camps are Monday through Friday, 9 until 4, and every week has a different theme. Engineering, STEM, art, literature, all of those take place, all of them revolve around gardening, but we also added farming, food, and fitness. So for farming, Rancho was a beautiful place for us to be able to invite guest farmers and their livestock. So we had llamas, we had goats, we had chickens, we had horses, and we also had farmers come and talk to the kids. And so that was such a beloved part of our programming and something that the kids are always talking about. And you have the space and the facilities to be able to have these animals join us. We also did a program in partnership with the Nevada Department of Agriculture. And so I think the recipe cards might have come your way. But every Friday, we focused on food. And so we would highlight a local farmer. We would talk about where you could purchase their produce, why you should eat their produce. And then we invited a guest chef to come and teach our children something yummy to do with all of those produce items. So Chef Mark Este came, Grateful Gardens came, Yasha's Deli. We had a variety of guests every single Friday. They would come and work with the kids. And it was pretty amazing because we didn't even have cooking resources or materials, and they just made it work. So that was a really fun partnership we're hoping to do again this summer. And then fitness. So every Friday we had yoga with the kids. We also taught them meditation, and we went on hikes. And so just some additional things that we added. We've also had some positive publicity happening to promote Rancho San Rafael itself. First off, we included Washoe County's logo on the back of our summer camp t-shirts. So that went to over 500 kiddos and made its way all over. It's funny when we see pictures of kids in Hawaii or Washington, D.C., and they're wearing their Urban Roots summer camp t-shirts. So Washoe County's name has traveled around. And then we have also partnered with a local media personality, Connie Ray. She has a show called The Next Stage. She was helping us talk about getting this kitchen for our new farm. And through that, we brought Dr. Kristen McNeil, our interim deputy superintendent of the school district, down to Rancho, and we did an interview, and as you can tell, that was the day that we happened to have llamas at the farm. She was delighted. So just some positive, wonderful experiences that we've been having at Rancho. And then in addition to our partnership, we adopted Glenn Duncan STEM Academy. So back in 2016, John Slaughter and the county created a garden at Glenn Duncan. It was a very gorgeous garden, but without the right support, the teachers weren't quite sure how to use it, and it also fell into Washoe County for the maintenance. And so in 2018, we began implementing our programming and taking care of that garden. So what we've done, well, I'll backtrack. Glenn Duncan itself is a 2-star school. They have over 400 kids. Nearly half are English language learners, and 100% of them qualify for free and reduced meals. So garden education is a very important thing for these youth, to learn not just where their food comes from, but how they can grow it, and to learn through gardening. Making science come alive, having math experiments, and all of that can be done through gardening. So what we've started doing in 2018 is garden maintenance. So instead of having Mr. Slaughter's assistant going out and taking care of the garden, we're doing that for the school. We also provide one of our teachers, and the teacher is based at the school, and she is there once a week throughout the entire school year. She's either teaching in the garden or she's teaching in the classroom if the weather is inclement. So through that, we're providing STEM education and then also 5210 education. So 5210 is a new initiative it's Healthy Washoe 5210, and we received grant funding from the Health District to implement this. So it stands for 5 fruits and vegetables a day, 2 hours of exercise and activity, 1 hour maximum of video and recreational screen time, and 0 drinks with sugar. And so Duncan was chosen as one of those sites to receive this special messaging. So that's something we've been doing for those students as well. We also incorporate their teachers into our teacher trainings, of which we have 2 to 3 a year. Our goal is to teach those teachers how they can use the garden effectively. Some of them are intimidated by gardening and just won't use it, and so through the teacher trainings, they're learning how. We also take all of the 3rd grade students from Duncan to our farm, and so they get to go there for a field trip. And each of those students that go on a field trip receive one of these family engagement kits. So this is also funded through the Health District. But in these kits, it includes a book that they get to keep in their own home library, all of the materials they need to extend the learning into the home environment, as well as curriculum that's also translated into Spanish so that there isn't a barrier that way. And so those go into the home place too. And then finally, we give that Glenn Duncan their own set of scholarships that they can give to their students. They can use it for Student of the Month or just certain awards, however they decide. That's applied directly to those students so that they can then attend camp at Rancho. So there's just some more pictures of Duncan. That's a family engagement kit at the top. The teacher on the far right picture, that was just taken Friday. So we're there all the time. We love that school. So that's kind of just a little bit about what we've been up to in both Rancho and at Glenn Duncan. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Faith. Wonderful program, and thanks for the presentation. Any questions from the commissioners? Go ahead.
Thank you, Faith. Do you have spring break camps?
We do. Oh, and I also included our flyer for summer camp. I think that went around. And yes, we are open for spring break. But we currently haven't explored having spring break also at Rancho because we get our AmeriCorps during the summer. And we just don't have enough staff to be able to run it at both of our locations. But spring break is coming up, yeah.
Yes, it is. I just think that this is a wonderful example of how our open space, our parks are available and accessible to the nonprofits that are doing such great work, and we don't have to duplicate that. We just open the doors and you come, and it creates memories for families that are coming to learn about your mission and eating healthy, and they get to experience our parks. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. One of my favorite things is hearing from the families. How many of them have never even been to Rancho? And so a lot of times too, they'll drop off their older kids and then they'll go explore the park while they're there with their younger kids, and or stay after when they come to pick them when we close. So it's been a great way for us also to help spread the resource that is Rancho to our community. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Wonderful program, and thanks for your involvement in the community beyond just our parks.
Thank you.
All right, we are item 11, park reports. Colleen.
Okay, for the record, Colleen Wallace-Barnum, I'll keep it short. For our Park District report, I did want to highlight that we did a promotion. Celia Walker was our Park Ranger 1 out at Lazy 5 Regional Park, and she accepted the Park Ranger 2 position. She will now be stationed out of Rancho, which is exciting, and she has already started, and she's actually straddling both parks currently. And wanted to highlight that in the May Arboretum, the May Foundation supported a pretty significant ask for almost $150,000 for interpretive panels to be installed throughout the botanical garden, the Arboretum and Botanical Garden. So our horticulturalist, Bill Carlos, is working closely with the foundation and then Fallon Media to get the content. Fallon Media has been hired to do content, graphic design, and then also fabrication of those signs. So it's a nice improvement that'll happen at the Arboretum in the next, I would say, 18 months. Anybody else? Oh, and our Animation Academy exhibit at the museum started, and they had a great opening day. It was a good weekend, solid weekend numbers-wise. And then just wanted to highlight that our assistant curator or recreation, she's a recreation specialist, but she assistant curates at the museum, Samantha, she did a presentation on Wilbur May for the, so let's see, it was for the Historic Preservation Society of Reno, and over 50 people attended, and it was just really exciting. It was kind of neat to see some pictures of that event. So just a neat thing that she did at the museum for the community. And then I'm not sure if anybody had questions about the volunteer report or planning report. I'd be happy to expand on anything.
Any questions? Commissioner Short.
One quick comment. Thank the Planning Commission for the Planning Division for the bigger type.
Will do.
I love it.
A couple of comments. I did go to the Animation Academy. It was great.
Great.
Took my great nieces there, grandniece, I don't know, some niece. They had a great time there. They were enjoyed the interactive part of the exhibit and spent a lot of time there. Great. But they had a great time. I do have a couple of questions on planning. On the Ballardini Ranch extensions, where are you on that process in both the north and the south?
Okay. South is a little further along than the north. The north is going to be going through a NEPA process. The majority of that trail will be on federal land. The south, as far as I understand, we are looking for an appropriate connection to the Thomas Creek Trailhead. They're finding a lot of cultural resources, so they're having to navigate through that. So I think we've been trying to find where that trail connection will come through. But as far as I know, that's the south update. But we're much further along in that process. It's just a matter of really getting the alignment together and then hiring the crews to do that.
All right. It'd be at least interesting for me if in the next report, give a estimated time of completion on some of these projects.
Sure, I will ask.
Just, general, not specific, but general.
Okay.
Last comment on park planning, and I think I can ask this question. It's on park planning. I was amazed to be watching the news a couple of weeks ago and found that we're building an ice arena at the South Valley Park. Can anybody tell me what's going on there?
Okay, it looks like Assistant County Manager is coming up to answer that.
Good afternoon. For the record, Dave Solero, Assistant County Manager. As this board may recall, we had received an unsolicited proposal in 2016, I believe, that went through a process whereby Washoe County staff reviewed whether there was any, we've got a whole policy. So we had actually received a proposal from a third-party group for an ice rink. The Board of County Commissioners actually entered into an agreement with that group. From what I understand, they have now raised the money, a sufficient amount of money. Part of the process is that they've got to prove that they've got the money in the bank to move forward with this. I do have some plans sitting on my desk for review. That's one of the other things. Washoe County needs to review that. But there was a portion of land set aside just to the north of the library. It was part of the master plan process that went through, identified a location. I think we were all caught about the same, that this ice rink is ready to go. Like I say, there's some things that still need to be done. I've been working with the developer, the not-for-profit, to make sure that we get all of the things we were supposed to through those grants. So as part of that planning report, that project, if it indeed does continue forward, once all the documents have been received and executed, we will provide some updates to this board as that construction continues.
It would be interesting to get some kind of report on it, because I obviously, after I live in a kind of a retirement community, and I fielded a bunch of questions on this. So I'd be curious to where we are in the process, and
I'd be happy to provide all of you with the phone number for the entity that is actually doing this project.
Okay.
It is technically right now their land to do this project on. So I've asked staff to direct all questions to them, so I can provide that information to you all as well. Yep.
Wow. So the land's been deeded to them?
No, there's a land lease that has been executed. So.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I had read somewhere that the Festival of Lights was being canceled for
Yes,
this year.
thank you. And that was my other update. So I appreciate you.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate you mentioning it. So, because Faith mentioned it as part of, because there was, going to be some overlap. Yes, we just got news Friday of last week that TNU Arts and Culture, which is the company that we are working with on that festival, has canceled for this year, for 2020. The problem is there's some travel restrictions and visa restrictions, and they do bring the artisans over from China, and due to those restrictions, they're just not going to have enough time to get those artisans here to set up and be ready for our festival in the summer. And they were extremely, it was a difficult decision for their board, but that is the decision that they made. So we did enter into an agreement for several years, so we will look forward to hopefully bringing that to the community in 2021.
Any other questions? Thank you, Colleen. All right. Item 12, Director's Report.
Good afternoon. For the record, Dave Solero, Assistant County Manager. Just a few items that came from this board and went through the Board of County Commissioners. February 25th, the board approved the agreement between Washoe County and the Reno Tennis Club. You'll remember that was an item that was on your last agenda. The board also awarded a bid to Sullivan Structures for improvements to the Bowers Mansion repairs Phase 3. So these are some exterior decks. There's some work on the decking, some of the woodwork. This is ongoing maintenance work associated with the structure of Bowers Mansion. They also approved a resolution to augment the golf course fund in the amount of $2,903,000 to increase funding this fiscal year. And this is in relation to work to be done up at Wild Creek Golf Course. So that was monies that came from the school district for the sale of the water rights and the land to be utilized on that project. Needed the budget authority this year so we can get contractors out there reconfiguring that golf course. Another item that came up earlier today was the budget, and Mr. Crump and I discussed a little bit. Washoe County, while it seems like budget is a once-a-year type thing, we are all working on budget year-round. So we are out in the field talking with staff about their needs, talking about those types of things, programs we may need to change. So I do offer that to you, not only just during this budget season, but at any time, if you see something or you want additional information related to parks budgets, how decisions have been made, those types of things, we are all here to answer those questions. I think when we do the budget workshop, you'll have a better idea of how the budget actually works and functions and what that looks like. And so I think that'll be the time that might spur some questions, some comments about, hey, what about programming or budget associated with certain things maybe you've seen in some of your neighborhood parks or some of the regional parks that you've got. Again, we've also got the master plans that are done specific to parks. We've got our overall park master plan. Those help guide our decisions related to budgeting through the season. But again, it's not just a one-time shot. It is all year long that we are working through this with the staff in the park operations arena, the park rangers, understanding what their needs are, what they're seeing out there, what trends are coming in through the community. So wanted to make sure that we were clear on that this is anytime you have something that pops up and you want the question or you want to understand a little bit more about that budget process, or you have an idea, you hear something, please forward that information to us. I did receive one email from Commissioner Nenzel. Some of them there were little operational things that we're working with staff, but like I say, offer that out to any of you at any time during the year. So that is my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, Commissioners' comments, item 13. We'll start down here. None?
I have a couple things. One is in preparation for the budget workshop, what I would find to be helpful, and I know that Commissioner Jung mentioned this going back 12 years, kind of seeing the general trend. It's easy to get into kind of incrementalism when you're budgeting line item, we want to add another position here and there. So I would be interested in knowing what kind of structural changes were made way back at the recession, because then that gives us a context for what the budget, how those priorities were established. And then that helps me kind of get a feel for where, in general, the department wants to go, and then kind of align that with some of the observations that I might have, so that would be helpful. And then another thing, I'm curious if there's been any discussion about the egress at Bartley Ranch during events. I mean, I know that it takes a while to get out of there, the parking, there's only that one way across that bridge. So I just wonder if there's kind of a report on if there are any plans for an additional egress for that park. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Commissioner Short. Okay.
There it goes. When we were talking about the budget stuff, I was just curious if we have any, but if we could find out in there or have in that included what we might have for acquisitions of new land or new parks or things like that, if any of that's available.
Go ahead. Do you have anything, Commissioner Lee? Nothing. Commissioner Anderson? Nothing? I don't at this point.
I just wanted to introduce myself for the record.
Oh,
Lindsay
absolutely.
Liddell, the new district attorney assigned to the Parks Commission and also the Parks Department.
Thank you very much and welcome aboard. Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
should have done that at the start of the meeting. Face it, it wasn't being recognized, and I apologize for that.
No need to apologize.
Last item, public comments. Any public comments?
No public comment.
Okay, seeing none, meeting's adjourned.